And as they say, you either want a tree or you want a fruit tree. Unlike what the power line companies do, they like to prune all the trees back in the wintertime, which makes them more vigorous and makes them go into the power lines even faster because they're pruning for vigor, not for shape. Oh, we got a wasp right on the lens. Hello, friend. Well, I definitely don't want the things growing straight to the sky to vigorously grow. Because you're either growing a tree or you're growing a fruit tree. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to have roosters trying to interrupt us as much as possible.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Mitch, Green Pastures Permaculture, and we're going to do a hard prune on this. What'd you say it was? A plum cut tree.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a grafted tree.
Nope.
I searched and searched. There's no graft. So this is a sapling or a seedling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bought it when it was about a foot and a half tall and planted it there.
And how old is it?
Well, I planted it in 2020, so it's about probably 6 years old because it was probably about a.
It was probably a year old when you planted it,
Yeah.
and you planted it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's probably a 6-year-old tree.
Yeah.
And you can't tell from the footage, the base of that trunk is 6 or 7 inches across with 3 trunks coming out of it.
Yep.
First off, we only need a couple tools for pruning a tree. A good pair of secateurs or snippers, pruners, whatever you want to call them. Make sure they're sharp. And a saw. A nice, sharp branch saw. That's all we need. And don't you you've got some alcohol wipes?
Yes.
For our pruners.
Yes.
We want to make sure we clean them before we start.
Yeah.
Alright, so just some alcohol swabs. Nothing special. Let's just clean these off and make sure we're not transferring anything from one tree to another. Alright, first we got to know what it is we want to cut off of here. Which means what is it that we would want to keep is the main thing. You don't want to keep anything that's pointing straight up. You don't want to keep anything that's in the chimney. And you don't want to keep anything that is crossing over, touching, diseased, or broken. Just cut it all. Any of those categories, just cut them all off. So, for example, the chimney. We're going to come up the center of the tree, and all of this little tiny stuff has no business being here. This will not add to the productivity of the tree. And the more branches and foliage that we get in the center of the tree, the less airflow, and we get more disease, and you get more shade, which means fruit production. Like, stuff won't ripen the same if it doesn't get the right amount of sunshine. If we just start with the basic rules first, you'll end up with something much more manageable. Then you start making decisions. How to prune it, what direction you want the tree to grow. Right now we're doing the winter solstice pruning. So we're pruning for vigor. In the summertime you prune for shape. We're pruning for what part of the tree do we want to vigorously grow. Well, I definitely don't want the things growing straight to the sky to vigorously grow. Because you're either growing a tree or you're growing a fruit tree. Branches that point down are going to produce fruit. The branches that point straight up in the air are going to produce tree. So what did I do with my alcohol wipes? nice sharp branch saw, if I can say it right. So above the collar, and I'm going to cut the bottom first to make sure that I cut this bark line, so when I come down with the saw, I don't rip any bark going down the trunk.
Nice.
Nice and clean. And I'm going to throw it right at the camera person. Now, once it's cut off and I don't have to worry about supporting the weight, take this, and then there's already a downward angle. Then we'll bring the rest of it closer to the collar, and it'll shed water here. So we got rid of the one that's trying to make this a towering tree. We got this big broken branch here. But we can let it take some of this real estate here. So we've got a nice couple sets of buds right here. And I can just cut this right after this last bud here, and it's going to grow a little branch into this empty space. Now, one thing that determines how thick the trunk is what's called ramification. The amount of actual divisions in the branches directly correlates with how thick the trunk is. So if you want a thicker trunk so it supports more fruit, there has to be more divisions. One way we do that is by pruning the ends off in a very specific way. But we'll get to that after we thin out everything. So look at this. These two branches are practically intertwined. Yeah. You'll notice the bottom one has nowhere near as many fruit spurs as this top branch. Yeah. These top branches are covered in fruit spurs. Those are all the little, they look like a stubby branch with buds on them. Those are actually the places where it produces the fruit. So we're going to get rid of this entire lower branch here. And look at that. So much clearer. And now we don't necessarily want a tree that reaches out here. I mean, what, we're like 8 or 9 feet away from the base, and we're not even a big giant tree yet. Yeah. So how are we going to determine where to stop this? Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to keep following that rule of cutting everything off that's pointing straight up in the air. So all of these are literally pointing straight up in the sky. These are never going to produce fruit. Start getting this lateral spread. When the branches go horizontal and downward, it increases their hormone production to produce fruit. You do this on all of the main leaders, and you start seeing what shape the fruit-bearing part of the tree is. The whole reason why we're cultivating it is so we can get fruit off of it. So let's make the fruit cultivation part of the tree the most important part of the tree. So you're simply taking all the branches that are growing straight out of the top. Or, see, we could train this down if we wanted. Like, we didn't want to clear too many off. But we do want to maintain this open center, and we've already got branch real estate over here, so we actually don't need to encourage it to go that direction at all. Like this branch right here that's trying to split off a bunch of times, but it's coming over here into real estate that we're gonna let that branch take that sun and stuff from over there. And then same thing with what's going on here. we don't necessarily need big branches coming up underneath this one. So these will never produce the type of fruit that it should because of all the extra shade. And this, we're just going to get it to where we're cleaned up from the ground. You don't need that. There's plenty more life left in this tree and still keep it within reach of a real nice, pleasant harvest. I'm taking the tops off of each main leader going out before I start shortening the ends. This is a nice branch. Look, they're all going lateral to the side.
Yeah.
And see, we just get rid of the ones trying to shoot straight up in the air. Like, no, we don't necessarily want to grow. We don't want to vigorously grow tree. We want to grow fruit.
Yeah.
But this is how we do it. It's already looking like a different tree.
It does. It looks 100% different. I don't even look like the same tree.
Okay, and now come around in the circle. We already cut off this big giant one that was going straight up. But now you look at this branch. It's all it does is go over top of everything else. So this has got a really good structure. It's got some big strong branches on it, lots of fruit spurs. Compared to leaving this, how much it affects this side of the tree, we want to actually balance it out a little more so that all the fruit is coming from this trunk, all that fruit is coming from that trunk, all this fruit is coming from these trunks. So now basically it's robbing sunlight from a big portion of this branch here. Now look, the whole center is now open. When the sun is coming in here in the center, look, every branch has a full share of sunshine. And now with that out of the way, we can see more of what's going on here. We'll get rid of this sucker-like growth and decide where we need to terminate these branches. So on each one of these branches, you should be able to see the difference between this year and last year's growth. This is where it ended. This is our new growth. This one, this is all this year's growth. But on some of these, that one's not so bad. I saw some that were dry and brittle. See, if it snaps like that in your fingers, look, there's no green under the cambium layer. And we can simply go back a little farther. Look, no green in the cambium layer. We go back another bud. Green.
Yep.
The branch is dead from here out. So I'm going to come back here and at least cut it past all the dead stuff. You can do this mostly by color. You see that dry, it's kind of dry looking. But when you look at the nice, healthy one, it's got color and it feels soft to the touch too. As opposed to this, look at it immediately just splinters when you try and flex it, and this is flexible. So we just want to find as many of those as we can, and let's just just snip them back at least back to a healthy part of the branch, so that it can't less likely to spread. Or stuff like this. It's damage from something. There was a T-post in the ground right here, and this is, you gotta pay attention to what you have next to your fruit trees. Either trim the branches or remove the obstacle, because this will just introduce disease. You can see the black stuff that's forming on the edges of the exposed cambium layer. That's disease. And so we can just bring this back to a healthy part. Now this branch is actually coming directly up underneath of another one, which means it's not useful. And this one is trying to come into this one's real estate. That one's gone. Now we're starting to get like, okay, nobody is standing on top of anybody else. Look at this one standing in the shadow. It's competing with itself. If it doesn't have to compete with itself, it'll put all of its resources exactly where we want it, which is growing fruit. Now the question is, how far do you want to let this come out before we terminate it and make it start spreading in a different way? This is already a natural primary. Spread and change our direction. And then here's another pretty strong one that they're both pointing exactly sideways. So if you could find a spot, so I'm going to pick like right here. You see just below my cut, there's two branches. Both of these are going straight sideways. They're going straight horizontal, which means the branches that thicken up coming out of them will continue in the way we want it to develop the tree. And the vigorous growth is going to come on all the sections that we left. It's really starting to show us the shape of this tree. Now, you've never pruned this tree before, right? Or you have?
Well, Brett did, but he did it.
Just kind of chopped it back.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, same thing. If we look down this branch, we'll see that right in this area, look, there's a bunch of branches going flat. And so we're going to terminate it just after this last pair here. When this spreads out at the end, it's going to be nice and flat. It's a little high, but it's not. That's not a bad place to have fruit at. And you can also take these branches and train it down like this and keep it a little lower. I want all the branches to try and come out like a fan. You do all of the tips, it will increase ramification, and it's just going to make all of the branches thicker. And see, these are all dead. These are all crispy. Crispy branches got to go. What we got going on here, we've just basically just got kind of a mess. So we're just going to continue that floor cleanup like we did on all the others until we get up to one of these main branches. See, we're pretty much clear all the way up to a thick branch. Yeah. And we just see there's ones that are pointing directly towards the center. We don't want anything growing in the center. We want sunshine in the center. Yeah. That's it. Look, these are all dry, crispy. These long wispy things, you can't have that. No wispies. Now the branch tipping, this you do this on vigor pruning, your winter pruning. Because I want everything that's left behind to grow vigorously. Yeah. See, look, here's a section where I've tested. I got this far up, and it just barely turned green. All of this is dead. We don't really want to encourage really thick branches out towards the ends, so we're going to make our cap. We got our two horizontals, but they're not super thick. This one, same thing. We're just going to come down about the same distance. Got two nice horizontal ones right here. If it's perfectly straight down, that's not going to get very good sun either.
but not the least.
Yeah, last but not least. We got some entanglement going on. So we got a branch going straight down, but this one that's going sideways is overlapping it. This sideways branch is way better than the branch that's pointing straight at the ground. And the most common piece of advice for pruning a tree is they'll say don't ever get rid of more than a third of the tree at a time. We've gotten rid of at least a third of this tree, but it's not heavily diseased. It's a pretty healthy tree. It'll recover just fine, especially when you're cutting in the right shape. When it starts producing foliage, it's going to have such an advantage of efficiency that it'll spring back really quickly, especially after what we're going to do here at the bottom of the tree to encourage the soil health around it. Because nothing will help the tree more than the increase of soil health.
Yeah.
All right, we're just going to tip all these, make sure that we encourage that vigor. I want all this stuff to get kind of fishy. But there you have it. It looks like we did a lot. Well, we did do a lot, but what the effect this will have come springtime, it's going to be a beautiful tree. And now when you have these even spread out fruit sets, you'll be less likely to break branches when it does fully set on fruit.
Yeah. I think the only one that broke was the one that was over here. It really had a lot of fruit on it. It just said, that one almost did, but
and see, by increasing ramification, when you get lots of fruit sets out on the end of a branch, because it's off of a whole bunch of divisions instead of big clumps on the ends of each one, because the ramification made the trunk thicker, it can automatically hold more fruit because you made more divisions.
Yeah.
And so they use this concept in bonsai because it makes the tree look older the thicker the trunk is.
Yeah.
Well, also with fruit trees, it makes the tree stronger because it's thicker. If it's stronger, naturally lends to the thought that it would hold more fruit. Well, I hope that was informative. I hope that serves you. If you have any more questions about pruning your fruit tree in the wintertime, drop it in the comments below. Thanks a lot. Have a blessed day. All right, here's a look at our nectarine tree that we pruned in December. Now, just for size reference, I'm 6'2", and we pruned this in December for vigor. We also had some reshaping to do, which you don't normally do on the winter solstice, but it was really badly pruned and things were overlapping and rubbing and all the stuff you don't want to see in a fruit tree. So now we're going to prune it for shape. Summer solstice. I'm about 2 weeks late, but it doesn't have to be that exact. We'll make sure we clean our tools. Yeah, we're still recording. All right, so just make sure it's nice and clean. And that's it. Really nice sharp set of trimmers. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start getting rid of all of these branches that go straight vertical that we don't really want in here. Timber. Now it's a little clearer. What we have here inside of this tree, we'll see we have a lot of these branches. Some people call them suckers. They're coming straight vertical. And we don't want the tree to get any taller. And as they say, you either want a tree or you want a fruit tree. So if it's reaching for the sky, it's trying to make more tree. If the branches are horizontal or downward, then it wants to make fruit. So let's get her tamed back a little bit. And some of these are a little bit too big. Some of these are going to use a nice sharp pruning saw. Oh, I definitely found a wound on my hand. And since this is a nectarine tree, you want to make sure it's got this nice vase shape where it's open in the center. Now it's starting to get opened up a little bit in here. We're just going to work our way out from the center. We're getting quite the pile now. Now we can see the center starting to get cleared out and actually get some airflow in there. And we're just going to keep on going. And it's going to look a lot different. You see, this branch is all curved in. We had the greenhouse crammed up against here for about a month. And so I can put some wire on this and get this to stop curling. We're also going to come around and tame some of these ends. See, once you start pruning a fruit tree, you have to keep pruning it, or it'll turn into a tangled mess. This is a fruit-bearing branch. This one is not. You don't want anything crossing, running into each other. And we're going to take all of these tips and we're going to cut like a foot off of them just before a node. We'll end up with less suckers and more branch division. A little vertical, so is that one. And some of these are just coming right off of the top. That will not make fruit. That will only make more tree. So when we prune it into the shape we want this time of year, it has a tendency to keep its shape. Unlike what the power line companies do, they like to prune all the trees back in the wintertime, which makes them more vigorous and makes them go into the power lines even faster because they're pruning for vigor, not for shape. Another reason to prune it this way is nobody wants to be picking their fruit from 20 feet up in the air. This makes it much easier. Get rid of the little dead twigs, anything like that. Very nice. And this is really big and trying to cross over everything else. We're already gotten rid of a lot of height off the tree. See, these are pointing directly towards the inside of the tree. No, we definitely don't need limbs pointing back towards the center. As you thin it out, you see the ones that are crossing, or there's more than one branch coming out of a node. And we go deeper. Well, this tree got hit by that late frost that we got. Hit 25 degrees 2 nights in a row, and it killed all the blossoms off of the tree. But we got one fruit on the tree hidden under here. Yeah, and we're trying to keep it protected from the bugs. You can do the tea leaves. Oh, they're not tea leaves. You can't make tea with them. Right, you can make tea with them, but they're not what people call tea leaves. Yeah, but what do you call tea leaves? Tea leaves. That plant has a very specific name. Oh. They make green tea and black tea and oolong tea, all come from the same plant. This section here is a little bit overcrowded. It's going to make everything go the one direction away from this other branch. All right, had a dead battery, now we're back in action. Let's keep going. Same thing all the way around. If they're trying to cross, or if they're exactly vertical, or if there's more than one branch coming out at a split, we're going to get rid of it. Pick one of them and get rid of it. When the branches droop past horizontal, it forces them to, or causes them to produce a hormone that tells them to make fruit. And that's what we want. We want more fruit. Now Brett's going to come out here and go, you cut half the tree off. Just working our way through. A little bit of dead wood. Trim that out of there. Oh, it's really starting to look like something. Looks like we got one more branch over there. All right. When all done, it's going to look like I've been pruning in a swimming pool. See, now we might have left a little too much of this branch on when we did the vigor pruning. So I'm going to actually big portion of this off. That was heavy. Let's clean this up a little bit. And make sure I don't cut the wrong branch off. There's only one branch holding the fruit on this tree. And when the branches come straight out the bottom, they almost always die. I hope they can hear that in the microphone. Something huge buzzing me. Oh my goodness. Well, this is my episode of pruning a fruit tree in a swimming pool. Well, anyway, let's have a look around. It's just a little bit smaller than it was before. We'll see how it looks in December. Oh, we got a wasp right on the lens. Hello, friend. So we saw how well it responded to vigor pruning. Now we'll see how it responds to shape pruning. And hopefully we can keep this nice umbrella shape and fruit that's a nice reachable size. Well, I'm Mitch from Green Patch Permaculture. Thanks for watching. See you next time.